Hey, it's pronounced Bag and I'm Adam, and in this video, I'm going to show you everything there is to know about installing the Aerofabb V2 front splitter on the MK7 Golf R. Because that's what I have and that's what I got. I want to give a huge shout out to Aerofabb. This is the splitter that my dreams were made of. It's the strongest, it's the best looking. They now, on all their products, have a chamfered leading edge and a better product or a better material that is more scratch resistant. So stay tuned for some more right now. All right, so I'm just about to get this open. I've already cracked it open. This is all taped and stapled and stuff, but check out when you open it, just the details. And then you go and lift up the cardboard. Look at all this packaging. And the quality of the product extends into the instructions. It's a heavyweight paper with colored instructions, pictures, details, you name it. Do not skip that first page. There's some really important bits about that I'll throw up here on the screen about thread galling. I had to look it up. All right, and as I'm opening the package, I'm also counting how many pieces of tape are used to package this all up. So far, I'm at 11. This is the Aerobrace. Notice that for the MK7 R, all these notches here, I'll show you a little bit of the thing that I made for my old splitter to do this, to fit kind of like an Aerobrace, but I didn't have this level of detail, obviously, and these notches fit into the front section of the bumper for more holding power. I don't know, for more holdability. And here's some of that fine detail. This is the texture of the material. Aerofabb gives a little cutout there. Got all the nice features. All right, so I just took the splitter out of this big plastic sleeve that it was in, and I'm a fan of all the material that is on this splitter. I'll show you a comparison of the old one that I have to this new one. The thickness of these splitters is only about 1/4 inch. I have a caliper that I measured at about 7 millimeters, and I think that's about 1/4 inch. The coolest feature of the new Aerofabb splitter is this chamfered edge, so you don't have just a square drop anymore. The top here is more textured than it used to be, but that is going to give a better long-term scratch resistance to the product. There's the new Aerofabb badge, and then also we have the QC sticker that they started putting on, because there's now more people working there. They gotta have some good quality control. All right, and then once you get all that off, you flip this thing up and check out, they even put wood pieces to support, to prevent bending. You got all your hardware under here. With everything is taped down into place. Nothing is gonna come loose in this packaging. It's just incredible the amount of time and effort that they take in putting this together. All right, so as I was going, I was counting more pieces of tape. I counted like 5 more to put me at 16, but then I went to go pull these off, and there's tape on the back side of every single one of these things. What is that? 17, 18, 19, 20 pieces of individual tape inside this just to hold everything together. Good on you, Aerofabb. All right, so here's everything that was in those packages. Sour Patch Kid, as everyone loves. All the hardware, and in the instructions, the very first note and thing you should do is just confirm that you have all the hardware. So, spill it all out, one at a time, count it up. Fortunately, I have everything, so I can get started. These are the tools that you're gonna need for this job, in addition to, getting the car jacked up, taking the wheels off and such. There is a drill with 1/4 inch drill bit, T25 Torx driver, 10 millimeter wrench, anti-seize, 4 millimeter Allen. What I'm adding to the instructions here is that on the MK7 R, right behind the grill, there are 3 T30 bolts that need to be taken off. So I have a T30 socket driver with extension, and then I also added a hammer, and you'll see where I needed to use the hammer just to lightly tap in the Aerobrace to help get it seated into the correct position. So this is everything you need in addition to jacking up the car, making sure you're safe. First step in the Aerofabb instructions is to remove the bumper. Now, obviously there's a little bit more to than just remove the bumper, and the T25 Torx bolts. There's a bunch of them. So before we get into that, I just want to look at this older lip that I have. This is a Flow Designs, I think this is like a really early version of it. Flow Design front lip that it's about a 1/2 inch thick, so almost double the thickness of the Aerofabb one. I'll show you a comparison side by side when I get it off the bumper. But it has, let's take a look here, straight down, yeah, I don't know, about 3/4 of an inch protrusion on the front leading edge. So we'll compare the Aerofabb one. But step one, remove the bumper. Let's get going. All right, we've got the car jacked up. Winter set of tires are gonna go on as these ones come off. But what we're gonna do is start removing the bumper by taking off these 4 Torx T25 screws. There's 4 in here, 2 down there I just pointed to, and then 2 up here where the bumper meets the fender. All right, so now it's time to take off all this stuff underneath the car. There's 2 kind of right here on the driver's side, 2 on the passenger side, and then there's 3, I think this runs into the bottom of the radiator core support. So those will all come off. I've got the all-track belly pan. I've really enjoyed having this just for, you know, the peace of mind. I had just recently learned that not all of them have this vent right here. I have a DSG, and apparently this vent is specifically for cooling the DSG. So getting all this off, you know, if you have the stock splash shield, there's just 3 T25 Torx bolts. There's one hiding in the dirt. 3 on this side, 4 on the other side. You take that off, splash shield comes off. You've got, for the all-track belly pan, you've got bolts. So I've got 2 on this side, 2 on the other side, and 3 along the back holding that in. So I've got to take all those off. All right, I've got all my stuff out from underneath the car. Now we're gonna take out the grill. There's just the 2 T25 Torx that need to come out. And then I'll set up an angle on the camera here to show you exactly how, on the MK7 Golf R, how this grill comes out. It's pretty simple. Gonna lean it out and just pop straight up here. All right, so here's my grill. There you can see how the tabs just go straight down. So I'm not really leaning it out too far, but just enough to kind of lift it and just pop it straight up. So now that we have the grill off, on the MK7 Golf R, there are 3 bolts under here. There is, I believe these are all T30, 1, 2 here, and 3 here. All right, bolts are out there. The MK7 Golf R has these nifty headlight washers, but there's also a hose connected down at the bottom of the washer reservoir, sending it up to those washers. So I'm gonna show you where you can unclip that and drain it into a bucket. So let's check it out underneath. All right, so when you come under the passenger side, you know, this is the front here. There's this corrugated line. I've already kind of taken some of it out of the bottom of the washer bottle. It's a little bit tight right here, so I'm just gonna go ahead and take out 1, 2 more of these Torx screws. All right, so I've got these screws out, and this piece just will slide right out. And right here you can see where this washer bottle connection is at. It's gonna be a little bit tight, but what you can do is you can rotate this around. What you want to do is squeeze both sides where the blue is, and it will pull straight off, and then you'll start getting your washer fluid just draining straight down. So make sure you have your bucket ready once you pop that off. Oh, there it comes. There it goes. Oh no, it's all over the floor. Oh no. All right, so here's what we're gonna do. We got an old oil pan. I'm gonna do this again and get my fingers in there and pull it just straight off. Now we're catching most of that. Oh man, I'm not gonna put that back in my reservoir. I've got a short little bucket that I'm gonna use to help provide some support so the bumper just doesn't fall off. I've already got this disconnected on this side. The next thing is that there's an electrical connection on this side. I'm going to pull this side of the bumper off first, see if I can reach in and catch it with the bucket. All right, so when you start pulling the bumper off, there's just some tabs that are right along here. So you're just gonna start kind of slowly, gently pulling out this top section of the bumper here. It'll just start popping out. There we go. There is these clips here that are underneath this area that you, or this part that you took a bolt out of. It just pulls straight out with a little bit of force. So you're just gonna have to kind of work it. You can get a screwdriver down in there to unclip that if you need to, but I think it's just designed to pull just straight out. All right, so now that I've got this kind of loosened up here, I can see the connector right here. I'm gonna reach in there and just unplug that, and I should be able to pull the bumper off. try to balance it on my own and just take it right out. Look at that one-man show here. Got it. All right, so I've just got the bumper off. One thing I do want to point out is that if you have the OEM splash shield and you don't have these washer, I don't know if everybody has these washers for their headlights, you might not need to take off the splash guard. I definitely did having the all-track one because it covers so much area and I needed to get to this hose and disconnect it. So I had to take that off, but I think there might be enough room to get to that and wiggle that hose out of there, because you can see that this is that front support that I took the 3 Torx bolts out of, and the tray clips right into here. So really the tray could stay. Those 3 Torx bolts need to come out so that the bumper can come off from the bottom. Maybe a little bit more work than I need to do, or than you might need to do, but it's helpful for me. All right, so bumper's removed. Looking at my hardware of my old splitter that I have on here, I'm a little upset with the anti-corrosive properties. These bolts are obviously not black anymore, they're just rusting. So anyway, what I wanted to show you is that this is the washer hose that I disconnected. Doing that I feel like is so much easier than if you were to try and remove the whole hose from the bumper. Not necessary. You'd have to disconnect it here, disconnect it over there, and then also you'd have to start taking apart a bunch of this business up in here so that you can get the hose out. So I really think that just disconnecting that is the easiest way to go. And then here is a quick look at the electrical connector. I'll show you the other end, how that clip works. So if you're taking this clip and you want to lift up on this little tab here, that will help release it, and then you can just pull it straight out. And it's just kind of floating in here. I don't think it's connected to anything or supposed to be supported with anything. Here is the difference between the Aerofabb and this old Flow Design splitter. What I really like about Aerofabb's splitter is the width of the material. There's nothing really that I think Aerofabb would gain by doing cutouts and saving some of that material. What I'm also happy to see is that the bolt holes aren't going to line up exactly. I think there is 5 mounting points along the main front part, where on this one there's 4, so happy about that. But check this out. So when I lay these over one another, I lined up, the back here to be about flush. So I don't know how much maybe further back or forward one of these goes, but there's a whole inch almost, maybe another ½ inch or so, but an inch in some areas that comes out a little bit further. So it'll protrude a little bit more. We'll see what it actually looks like on the bumper, but I'm pretty excited. It weighs, because it's half the thickness, it weighs actually less, it feels like, than the Flow Design splitters. All right, so now I've got my old splitter off. I've got the bumper flipped over. You can do this on the ground, but with the shape of the bumper, it makes it real nice and easy to have some sawhorses. But the second step is to identify and remove the 2 factory T25 Torx screws that are on the underside of the bumper. So what you're gonna do is remove both of these. We're gonna put the splitter on, and that is going to be what is going to help align the splitter and hold it into place so that we can do the rest of the steps here. And one thing I want to take note of these screws that you're taking out, do not mix them up with the rest of the screws that you have on the underside of the bumper, because they are longer than everything else. All right, so before I flip this over, start attaching to the bumper, I just want to show you the detail again. Check out how nice these badges look. The texture of this, it looks really heavy when I'm showing it in fine detail, but when you step back and take a look at it, like, it's gonna look real nice. Aerofabb now chamfers the front edge of this material that's about a 1/4 inch thick. All right, so I've just completed step 3. I've got the splitter on here. Now we have the alignment A hardware, the stock hardware that was on here, holding it in place. Now we can move on to step 4, which is drilling out each of these holes with a 1/4 inch drill bit. Step 5 in the instructions is strictly to pull out some specific hardware from the B packages. You have the 60 mil bolts, 50 millimeter bolts, 10 of the lock nuts, which is all of them, and 10 of the fender washers. And then you have the 3/4 and 1 inch spacers labeled B. There's another spacer bag that is labeled 1/4 that you're not going to use right now. There's also a bunch more fender washers that you're not going to use right now in this step. So on step 6, what you're going to be doing is installing some of the hardware. And I absolutely love these instructions because of how clear they are. There's virtually no way that you can screw up this install if you are reading the instructions and paying attention to what you're doing, because there's some different size hardware. So what we're going to be doing now is that there's 5 sets of holes that are the B holes that are front and rear. There is different size spacers, different size bolts. The larger set, the 60mm bolts and larger spacers go in the front. Shorter bolts and spacers go in these rear holes. So right now we're going to put all those in. All right, so now I'm going to take the nylon lock nut washers and I'm going to just hand tighten them on each of the bolts for the B hardware, so that in one of the future steps when I flip everything over to tighten down and put on the Aerobrace, I'm not going to lose my hardware. All right, for step 7, you're going to grab the bag labeled for hardware C and you're going to put that in the C holes. So there's just 2 of those C holes on each side. And you'll put that in and go ahead and tighten it all the way down. All right, so before you start tightening down some of this hardware, make sure you apply a little bit of anti-seize to it so you can prevent any thread galling. If you don't know what it is, look it up. It's a serious thing. Just put some on. It's gonna lube it. All right, so step 8 in the instructions has you turn the bumper right side up. My buddy and I did this on his car before, and the quick lesson learned was go ahead and put this thing on the ground instead of trying to keep it on the sawhorses, because what you're going to be doing now is taking out the lock nuts, putting in the rest of the hardware, and then putting in the Aerobrace. So having the ground to help hold all the bolts up is super helpful. I guess otherwise, if you wanted to do it on sawhorses, you could tape them all in place, but just flip it over, put it on the ground. Super easy. All right, so now you can see that I've got the rest of the hardware here. I've got fender washers and the spacers on the rest of these B-hole hardware. The next step is to install the Aerobrace, but I just want to show real quick some really awesome detail about this. I have the old plate that I had from the setup that I had before, and you can see this line right here where it just kind of ran along there, just trying to provide as much support across this black plastic piece. This black plastic piece is not part of the painted bumper that basically runs, all around here. So I've heard some stories from some friends that have some either older splitters or splitters where it only connects and there's just hardware that goes and attaches to this very, very thin, maybe like an 1/8 inch or less piece of plastic. Well, that's all only held on by clips. So if you're going fast on the highway or hit something, it's very possible, and it has happened, that that piece can just unclip or rip off and you're gonna lose it all. So that's why I'm really excited about this Aerobrace from Aerofabb that they've designed. And you can see all these notches here for the MK7 Golf R. These are going to slide right in to these slots. Let's see if we can find them here. So there's a slot right here that they're gonna slide into. There's another slot right there. So it is going to give you the most support of anything else that I've seen, way more support than this piece of garbage that I put in there. So we're gonna be installing this Aerobrace. You can use the bolt holes to kind of align exactly where the teeth are gonna go. You're going to tilt it and just slide it into the holes. And you're gonna just go ahead and set it down. It just takes a little bit of finagling. In Aerofabb's instructions, they do mention that it takes a little bit of force to really push the Aerobrace as far forward as possible. And you want to push it all the way forward so that the hardware in the back makes contact with the back of the hole. So I'll show you that detail here in just a moment. There it goes. There it goes. Okay, so there's, you'll know what I'm talking about when I'm looking at this diagram here. You're gonna wanna not believe that this bolt is gonna make contact with the back of the rear hole. It does. I had to use a little extra force with Mr. Tappy Hammer here. I was able to get my hands through the grill and just kind of squeeze and push. I got one side, but the other side was giving me a little bit of trouble, so I just used the hammer to just lightly tap on the back side here, and it eventually went and pushed forward. So you can see that all of my rear bolts are making contact now. So now that I'm in that place, I can start installing the rest of the hardware. All right, I've got the bumper back up on the stands here so that I can reach underneath to tighten down the hardware, but just want to show you real quick. You know, I've got the fender washer and the nut on there. I've also put some of the anti-seize on there to prevent thread galling. So everything is in place. I'm gonna tighten up all these now. I'm gonna check the other pieces and I should be good to go. So now I've got all the hardware tightened down. You can see the detail of where each of those teeth kind of slide in the front to lock this thing into place. It is in there solid. Here is kind of the first look with the splitter on, and I'm a fan. I just one-man bumper showed this thing. I'm gonna get those 3 bolts back in, basically do the reverse process of taking this thing off and button it all up. All right, so with this splitter on, let's take another look straight down here. You can see, I should have measured it, but to me there's about another maybe 1/4 inch of material sticking out than the old splitter. There's also kind of a little bit more protruding out here on the corners. I love the look. You know, it follows the bumper design really well. One thing that I really love is too how it comes down to finish here in the back. The other one that I had actually finished a little bit further up and it just kind of bugged me, but I love, look at this chamfered edge and the rounded corner and everything. It just is made to fit. Oh, and there's my new winter wheels. Hi, winter wheels. All right, I almost forgot to show one of the coolest things that I got from Aerofabb, the air freshener. I have never, ever run an air freshener in any of my cars, kind of because I think it's tacky, but when I opened the package for this, it smells very pleasant. And my kids got in the car after I put it in and they're like, Dad, why didn't you get this sooner? I'll probably end up getting more. So love the air freshener. Good job, Aerofabb. So one thing I want to show real quick too is that in my neighborhood I have these giant rolled curbs and I am right on the edge of scraping. You know, if I am not careful enough, I definitely will scrape if I come in too hot, but I have one of those bridge curbs coming, so I'll be able to handle that pretty easy. Incoming! Oh, here comes Rocky.